Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this class. But thank you so much for being here. We have our weekly class every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, it gets recorded so you can watch it whenever works for you. I'm going to be really honest with you. I was planning to share something different this class. But then I was on a Facebook group with other parenting coaches, and we share tips. We ask each other questions when we're going through something with a client, and we don't, we're looking for, another source of input or guidance. And I saw a coach post that she's working with a client, and her client has a son who is 10 years old and is still wetting the bed at night. So pretty much every night he has a bedwetting accident. And of course, it's embarrassing for the child. And I think also really hard for the mom who has to wake up every single night and change the sheets in the middle of the night. I mean, as moms, usually we expect, nighttime wake ups for the first definitely, 6 months to a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. But after that, really, usually our kids are sleeping through the night, at least regularly when there isn't something, else coming up. So I imagine that for a mother who has a 10-year-old, it's really stressful for her to wake up every night and have to change the sheets. It's like interrupted sleep, which is really hard on our bodies, physically, emotionally. And what they started to do, this mom, the client, she has some sort of alarm. I'm not familiar with it, which helps the son to wake up. And she created a star chart for him. So every time he doesn't wet the bed, he gets a blue star in the morning. And the coach was sharing that, anonymously, of course, but the coach was sharing that he did really well and he got 5 stars in a row. And now it's not working. And he is wetting his bed again. And so he's not getting the stars. And when I read that, I can't shake it. It's like my heart just was so overwhelmed because I'm just thinking about this 10-year-old boy who's wetting his bed and how many feelings that must cause for him as a person. And I don't know what it is. I'm not, guessing that I'm in his shoes, but this feeling of, it must be embarrassment, frustration, watching his mom have her feelings around it. Even if she's handling it really well, it's still, it's a challenge. And it's uncomfortable. He's waking up every night and it's something that he can't help. And it was really nice because a pediatrician who's also a coach chimed in and said, this is not a behavioral, issue. This is just something that, there's not that much to do about right now. And eventually he'll grow out of it. It just takes patience. And, my first reaction was, wow, that star chart is probably putting a lot of pressure on him, right? Because, it's like, okay, so he got the stars. Think about like this boy. And this is going to be, I guess, end up some sort of conversation about rewards, right? And how we a lot of times give rewards to our children as an incentive for them to do something, to get something done. But then what about when they don't? And why didn't they? Is it because they don't care and they're not trying to? I'd be willing to bet this little boy, it's not that he doesn't care about wetting his bed. It's not he's trying to be difficult. He just can't stop doing it. So he gets all these stars, right? He's doing really well. Wouldn't that add a lot of pressure to him? I feel like if it were me, it would add a lot of pressure to me. The fact that I got the stars and it's like, we're doing great. And there's probably a lot of excitement in their house around it. So then it's the voice comes in of, oh my gosh, oh no, what if I don't get a star next? What if I disappoint everyone and I wet the bed tonight? And I feel like that kind of pressure would even maybe emotionally add to, the bedwetting. But even if that isn't the case, right? The disappointment, the embarrassment of now not getting a star because my body isn't handling something that it's supposed to. According to society, by 10 years old, I shouldn't be wetting the bed. So there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my body. My body's failing. I mean, think about all of the limiting belief systems that can arise in a child's mind from this. My body's failing me. I'm disturbing my mother's sleep. I'm annoying, I'm helpless. There's something wrong with me, right? I'm not getting that blue star. So someone's disapproving of me. So many feelings, so many limiting belief systems. And if something this little boy can't help, and then I think about the mother and I think, wow, that's exhausting. Maybe that's worrying, right? There's something wrong with my child. I can't do anything to change it. I can't do anything to fix it. That's really hard. That's a hard feeling for a mom to sit with. I actually had to take a few minutes before getting on this class because this was really deeply emotional for me. It like hit something really, really deep. You know, this feeling of a mom tired and exhausted when their child's 10 years old. And maybe that's something for me because I have a 19-month-old and I'm just like, oh, just one, just a couple more months and I'll be sleeping better. Um, I mean, I can't even, those are just some options of what they could be feeling, right? I have no idea what they're feeling. I just know that there's pain there, and it really made me think about how, okay, in this situation, it's bedwetting, but, my oldest gets she goes from 0 to 100 really quick and she gets really angry. And you know what? It's something she really doesn't like about herself. When she's in a calm moment, she's really upset with herself that she gets so angry and takes it out on people around her. So as a mom, I'm thinking, first of all, how important it is for her to know that she's allowed to have her big feelings. Right now, at the age of 6.5, scientifically, her brain can't even self regulate the way that an adult brain potentially could if we learn how to do it. So, she's having these big feelings and emotions, and then she's feeling bad about it. Maybe perhaps where have I in the past, not created a safe space for her to feel angry, made her feel like there's something wrong with her for feeling angry. I could have done that. So it's, and even if I hadn't, something in society did. And, now for me, it's about creating a safe space for my daughter to know that when she has those big feelings, there's nothing wrong with her. We all have those big feelings. You know, so many times when our children are not acting the way that we want them to, not handling a situation well, not doing well in school, even if it's behavioral, quote unquote, behavior comes from emotion. It comes from something residing deep within ourselves that's not being nurtured in the best way possible. So when our children have these big reactions, or they're not doing well in school, or they, get angry, or, the class clown misbehaving, they're asking us for something. They're always asking us for something. And we just want to be so mindful of how we handle those situations. Do we create a really safe, merciful space for them when they're going through their challenges? And this is something that's really, really hard. It's really hard to do, right? To be able to look at our child who in the moment is creating all sorts of emotions for us, triggering all sorts of emotions for us, and say, wait, there's something that they need from me right now. What do they need? How can I create a space where they can feel safe to be who they are? Another coach in the group posted, she wrote, that she actually wet her bed through 6th grade. And what helped so much was just her mother being there and being okay with it and supporting her through it and everything her mom did. And she offered this, suggestion of, why don't you put another mattress on the floor that's dry, so in the middle of the night he can just get there on his own and you don't have to change the sheets until the morning, which is a great suggestion, right? So rather than resorting to those, to rewards, punishments, bribes, and threats, let's get really creative. As parents, we can get really creative. We can come up with alternative solutions to what our children are going through, and helping them to facilitate like handling them in a creative way that doesn't make them feel bad, and that doesn't contribute to creating any challenging feelings for them, beliefs or things that they'll hold inside them from children to adults. But rather, like there is something going on right now, right? My 10-year-old is wetting the bed. So how can we get creative about this so that I get my needs met as a mom? I get the uninterrupted sleep that I need. And he goes through the night. He has a solution. You know, um, he has a solution for himself. And we can just normalize the fact that this is what his body is doing right now. And we're going to accept it. And we're going to, to just, this is where he's at, to just be okay with where it's at. And it really, it makes me think about like those rewards, punishments, bribes, and threats. I know it's so easy for us as parents to just want to get our child to do something really quickly because we lose patience. We don't have time. We're just grasping at like, we're grasping at air, trying to figure out what it is how we can help them, right? Like how we can help them to do what they need to do. We think that will help them to feel good about themselves if our child, isn't studying for their tests and they're failing. So we might look at it and say, oh, my child is failing school. That's really bad for his self-esteem. If I can give him a reward, if he does well, then he will do well in school and he'll have higher self-esteem. I'm not sure that that's how it works, right? I don't know that a child will feel better because they got good grades because they were bribed to do it, rather than figuring out why they're not studying. Rather than incentivizing them to do it, help them to work through why they're not studying, and understanding that this low self-esteem, perhaps, right? It could be any feeling, but is actually what's fueling the child to not study, rather than the low self-esteem that comes after the end of the test because that they're failing. Because now they're going to find they'll do well on the test. They'll be like, oh, I can do it, but can I really do it? And does it really help the real underlying feeling behind why your child's not studying and putting in effort to do well on their test? And we can apply that to so many different, situations. I think the main idea really being, again, that we want to, because also, sorry, going back to that example, let's say we offer a reward and then the child studies really hard and then they fail their test anyway. Then what? Do they get the reward just for studying really hard? Okay, right? But they failed. And so maybe it's not really about failing the test. Maybe it's about, getting the child the real help that they need. I don't know, maybe they're not studying because they really don't get it. They really don't understand the information. But wouldn't it be nice to have known that before we tried to give them the reward? They didn't do it and then they failed the test anyway. I hope I'm not like speaking in riddle, like it's not too complicated. You're following the story, right? The thing is that our children, again, even if it's behavioral, let's get creative around how we can create a safe space, how we can facilitate our child to meet their goals, to learn to self-regulate, to study for their tests, to feel okay if they're wetting the bed and they can't help it. There are so many different creative ways I think that we as parents can think about but the way to do that is to first self-regulate ourselves. And this is such a huge part of conscious parenting. Conscious parenting is a lot of times portrayed as, sharing different ways to connect with our children, to help them feel safe, to help them feel taken care of, to make sure that they learn how to respect and trust us and get them to listen to us and to have, connected communication with them, which are all things that we obviously really want. They're such an important part of conscious parenting, is being becoming advocates for our children and creating a safe space for them. But a huge part of conscious parenting, I would say an even bigger part, is really supporting ourselves as parents to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, to support ourselves as parents to feel like we are fulfilled, to feel happy, to feel content, to feel strong as parents. Because when we do, and we have a lot of really good feelings around being a parent, then those creative ideas will just flow. It will be a lot easier to create a safe space for our children, to create a space where they respect us, to create a space where they feel like we're listening to them and communicated with, and we can have a peaceful relationship with our children. But really, the first huge part of that is, how am I becoming a conscious parent myself? How am I becoming a conscious person? How am I taking care of myself? Am I, you know, making sure that I feel safe? Am I working on the things that I struggle with? When our child is behaving in a certain way, or our child is um, not listening to us, not doing well in school, throwing tantrums outside, rebelling, there are a whole host of feelings that will come up for us as parents. A lot of them. There can be more than one. Frustration, embarrassment, loneliness, fear, anxiety, worry, discouragement. Maybe we don't believe in ourselves. We get angry. So the question is, and a huge part of being able to tap into creativity as a parent, alternative ways of handling challenging situations with our children, the way to get out of this like power struggle between us and our children is to first feel powerful as human beings, as adults, as parents. To get creative, to tap into our tuition, requires us first to really connect with ourselves, requires us first to really take care of ourselves as human beings. We want to just figure out how to talk with our kids, how to, motivate them in the right way so that they have high self-esteem and they're hard workers. They know how to handle their big emotions. But what if I were to tell you that the first step to tapping into the ability to do that, the strength, the creativity, the intuition, is first taking care of yourself, is first noticing what is being triggered within you. What are you feeling in those moments when your children are misbehaving or, you know, tantruming, rebelling, not studying for school, speaking disrespectfully, tormenting their siblings? I can go on, right? Doing the thing you asked them not to do 100 times, skipping school, not doing their schoolwork, et cetera, et cetera. What is it triggering within you as a parent? What is it making you feel? When we feel those low vibrational emotions, then we block our intuition and our creativity. We block our best abilities in being the best parent that we can be. And we don't allow that to come out. When we unlock it, when we deal with those emotions, when we self-regulate, when we bring ourselves to a place of equilibrium where we're happy, where we feel good and balanced, then the most amazing ideas can come out of our mouths. We don't need rewards, punishments, bribes, and threats. We don't need all of the heavy emotional baggage that attaches itself to our children when we're parenting from this trying to be powerful. We don't need to do it. We'll find the right words and the right ideas, the creative ways to solutions to help our children get their needs met and help ourselves get our needs met too. So practically, what do? Our child is wetting the bed. What is it? What are we feeling? What is the one thing that's stressing us out the most? For me, I think it would be exhaustion and worry about my child. Will this ever stop? So of course, then we notice those feelings, we honor them, we give them space. We're empathetic for our own feelings as parents. When we're able to do that, then we can put ourselves in our child's shoes. What must they be feeling? What are all the emotions that they must be feeling? And then we can ask them, right? How do you feel? Are you okay? I want to create a really empathetic space for you right now, because I know this is hard for me, but it must be really hard for you too. How are you feeling? Right? And then sure, we take them to a specialist, pediatrician, if they're not speaking well, a speech therapist, dietitian, nutritionist. hopefully with conscious approaches. So there's no guilt coming from those areas too, right? So we figure out, of course, if we need to consult professionals, we do. But then we get together with our child and we say, hey, right, teachers, of course, I didn't mention them, but they are so important, our children's educators. But then we sit down with our child and we say, hey, okay, now that we both know that we have all these big feelings around it and we're okay with having those big feelings, what can we do? How can we get creative about this? And children have the best ideas of how to solve their own challenges. They have the best ideas. My kids come up with the best solutions to their own challenges when they're feeling calm and when they're given the space to do that. When I say, hey, you know what? I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. How can we make this situation? How can we find a solution for this? They come up with the best answers. Ask your children, brainstorm together, get creative. We can't get creative and come up with alternative solutions when we're triggered. That's why when we're triggered, we resort to rewards, punishments, bribes, and threats. It's usually coming just from a state of frustration, throwing our hands up. I have no idea what to do. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm out. This is what we're going to do because nothing else has worked. There's always, I'm telling you, there's always another solution. Collaborate with your children. But the other solution won't come from a place of feeling triggered. It will come from a source of internal peace and fulfillment and happiness. And that's what our goal really needs to be about conscious parenting. So how can I help myself as an adult, as a parent, bring myself to this place where we're feeling good and peaceful? We're feeling happy and content. We're feeling like we are on top of it. Like we know we're doing the very best job as parents. Will we make mistakes? Absolutely. We'll yell. We'll get upset. We might reward, threaten, punish, or bribe again, or like have it come out of our mouths and then immediately regret it. We might do it, but that's okay. It's really about, just every day starting again. Every day reminding ourselves that when I get to the place where I'm parenting where I'm trying to regain the control or the power, it just means that I'm triggered right now. So what can I do to help myself to not feel so triggered so that I can build this communicative relationship with my children where we collaborate, where we're partners in this thing called life and parenting and childhood. So they feel like we're there as their partner, and they can really be our little partners too in a lot of ways. Thank you so much for joining. We have another live question and answer session. Will be the first Monday of the month of March. Crazy, the first Monday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please send me your questions if you have any specific ones. I'd also love to hear your ideas for content to share in these classes, which are weekly on Thursdays. Have a wonderful day and week. Thank you.